another episode of Foresight TV. I don't know that I want to say excited about this episode. It's deeply personal. We're going to be talking about the most recent recipient of the Bob and Diane Fund Award with Alzheimer's photography. Powerful stuff. This will be a great conversation. But before we get into it, this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. So I'm actually going to start with a little bit of a conversation with Gina here. Yeah, you just hang on for a second. You're going to get the bulk of the attention, but I want to start with Gina. But Gina, let's just talk a little bit about the Bob and Diane Fund and who you are and your passion and what you're doing and why you're doing this.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. So I started the Bob and Diane Fund 10 years ago. I was working at National Geographic, and my passion is photography. And while I was working at Geographic, my mom had dementia. She had Alzheimer's, and my dad was her caregiver. And I wanted to do something in their honor. And working at Nat Geo, I realized that photography can really help people understand and have empathy. So I started this grant where I give a grant to a photographer who is working on a project related to Alzheimer's or dementia to help people, to give a visual awareness to the disease, to help people understand it. And we give one yearly. This, and our new one, latest one by Leah, is our 2025 grant. It was given in late November. And it's exciting. I love when we are able to give a grant to a photographer I haven't been aware of. And it's a new project that I'm not aware of. And I get to share it with the world.
Great. And so you've been doing this for 10 years now. Talk to me a little bit about the impact you're seeing from the awards you do each year.
Yeah. So I'm definitely seeing a dip, or I don't know if it's a difference, but we have given 10 grants and we have been published on a platform, whether that's digital or in print, about 150 times. So, and that's worldwide. We've been published in the Washington Post, the New York Times, NPR, German Geo, BBC, all over the world. And it's so important that it's like that because it is worldwide. We receive submissions every year from about 25 different countries. So, and this one by Leah is our first one from Canada. So I'm excited about that. And then I try to get them, the local dementia organizations in those areas, to promote the work as well.
Terrific. This is great. So Leah, you're in Canada. You look like you're dressed for the cold. I guess it's pretty chilly up there right now. And as I was saying before, I spent a week or so up there when I was 18 or 19, and wonderful experience. But let's talk a little bit. Your photo essay just really resonated with me. As my audience knows, I am the family caregiver for my 93-year-old stepfather who's got dementia. He was at home with us until about 6 months ago when we finally got to the place where we just could not care for him, to keep him safe and to keep us safe. And so he's in a senior living community now. And so this was my lived experience. But tell me a little bit about who you are and what your passions are. This is not the only really hard story you've done, right?
No. And so going back to the weather, I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And so we're in the middle of a Chinook. So it's actually 7+7. But
Wow. So that's warm for you.
yeah, and there's not much snow. So it goes up and down. But yeah, I'm a photojournalist. I've been doing this for a long time. And I do cover a lot of, I guess, yeah, sad stories, but I'm really attracted to human emotion everyone deals with on a daily basis, really. I mean, it's not always happy, it's not always sad. The Dementia Project started sort of as a personal one. My father-in-law had dementia. He passed away 2 years ago. And same thing, Steve, they kept him at home as long as they could and then had to put him in care reasons. And during that time, I did ask them if I could photograph them to be a part of the project, but they said no. And that got me thinking about that there's still this big stigma about saying you have dementia, Alzheimer's, or being a caregiver of someone that's going through that, you know, with this disease. A lot of people don't really talk about it. It's strange. And I noticed that, and I met Ellen, who is the caregiver for his wife, Joan, probably in 2017 on an assignment when I was at the newspaper here. And we reconnected during COVID after my father-in-law had been diagnosed. I reached back out to him because I had saw that he was starting this group, this conversation cafe that I think was started in the States, and he was doing that here in the city I am. So I reached out to him, and he was so open to just sharing everything and letting me in for those moments with him and Joan.
I really want to dig into this, but before we get into his story, I'd like to have you talk a little bit more, reflect about your journey with your husband and his family. What surprised you? What did you learn? What shocked you?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, it's so hard. I mean, it's hard to think about. He is such a great man, my father-in-law, but I think it was just really sad. But what shocked me is how sometimes, you know, whether it was my mother-in-law or other family members, they didn't want to tell friends what he had. And that shocked me, maybe because I'm so open. I share lots of stuff, and I've always documented people that share. So that was hard. And I've seen this not just personally, but with other people going through this journey that they sometimes lose friends and family, or people don't know how to, you know, they're like, well, if Glenn has dementia, can I still ask him to go for coffee? Can I still go over? He won't remember who I am. I was just surprised at that, actually. Yeah.
Well, the conversation part is so difficult, right? I mean, this afternoon when I go over to see my stepfather, he'll ask me how the guys are. And he can't tell me who the guys are anymore. And I'll name a couple of people that I know who are still alive and have some contact. And then 2 minutes later, he'll ask me how the guys are. And we'll do that probably 8 times in 20 minutes. And of course, that will be in between that. He'll ask me where I live and how far away I am. And it's really hard for people, right? And so I absolutely get that. So tell me a little bit about Alan and his wife and what it was like how many times did you go visit and take photographs, and what was that like?
Well, Ellen is 81 and Joan is 75, and they are busy. Ellen is very active, and he's very hard to get a hold of sometimes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I tried to visit him as much as I could. I got busy, so you know, it was hard, but I would be like, we'd email and I'd say like, are you taking Joan to get her hair done, or does she have to go to the dentist, or are you guys going out to your cafe? So we kind of would arrange it through there. So during COVID too, like just going to the grocery store, putting masks on. So I keep in contact with Ellen quite a bit. And even now, obviously, I've told him about this and all that stuff. So we keep in touch quite a bit. So yeah.
Okay, so it's still really an ongoing project then.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to.
Yeah. I was saying, let's actually look at some of the photographs, Jade, if you can put those up, and we'll just sort of go through them fairly quickly. And if there are any that really resonate with you, there are a couple that really hit home with me. Maybe you could tell me a little bit. Let's start with this one. I'd love to hear about this.
I mean, this is Joan's favorite spot in the house. She still is able to go upstairs sometimes. Like, I'm not sure about lately, but this was her favorite spot in the house, to just sit there and have a nap. So you could find her just sitting there having a nap, and it was always in this spot where the sun was coming in. You know, Joan, I photographed in color, but I changed it to black and white because I love just personal preference. I love black and white, but Joan always wears like a hot pink sweater. So that is really pink. And Ellen does that sort of as a way to, you know, you can find her quickly, right? You could see her if you're out in the grocery store. She's wearing bright pink.
That's great. I love that. This one really hit home to me, and I'm not quite sure why. I guess partly for me, as I moved my stepfather, who was a big Silicon Valley executive, who then, after my mom passed away, moved into a single bedroom in my house, and now is living in a senior living community with a few dozen sort of mementos and photos of things. And the sort of, it's like the world is shrinking. And is this a new doll, an old doll?
I think those have been around for a while in their house, but Joan and from what she tends to hold the doll a lot, wrap it up like a baby. Same with stuffed animals. And I noticed that too with like my father-in-law, or when I photograph other people going through this, you know, having something to hold, a fidget toy or something. But yeah, she definitely goes back to holding these dolls, and she would carry them around quite often through the house and put them down. Joan and Alan don't have kids, but this is, yeah, she picks up these dolls. So this was just a moment in their laundry room. Alan was doing laundry, and Joan just would come in and sit down and with these dolls that he had set up in the corner there.
She looks so intense with this. And so that was the thing that really struck me. And I guess the other thing, I like this because it was just ordinary life, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that it's one of the most powerful things is that people are still living lives.
Yeah, like daily life. I mean, that piece of paper there, I think that might be the grocery list, but there is another photo, is probably not in here, but Ellen will take Joan out to the grocery store like this, and this is during COVID, so they're masked up. But if Joan, you know, says something to another customer that's beside them, they don't know that Joan has dementia, Ellen will stand behind her, and he has a little card that says Joan has dementia. And so this right away makes the other like, it just, you know, makes everyone relax and comfortable. And then people go along with, like, you know, if she said something, she's not being mean, or, you know,
I love that.
Yeah, I thought it was such a great idea.
Yeah, I actually.
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead, Gina.
I've been to a restaurant before where they had these cards where you check in, and it's for people with dementia. So the waiter knows that they have it and can be patient. And I think that is so great that he did that. That's something I would have been able to do a couple of times.
Yeah, I really like that. And I know there are several other things, sort of tricks that he used, and I'd like to get to those in a minute. But I really like that a lot. Riding in the car, just joy of getting out, and I love the light on this.
You know, Joan got to a point too, I don't know, but sometimes, like for this one, you just hear, I could photograph obviously with cameras on silent, but I don't think I did here. So every time, sometimes when I come to the door, she'd be like, click, click. And I was like, what are you saying? But it was the sound of my camera. She kind of remembered me. Yeah, it was fascinating. I mean, the human brain is fascinating. So story. Yeah.
Well, and it's one of the things I find so fascinating, right? Because there are things that seem to still, even when people are in the depths of dementia, that they still seem to remember and keep track of, and then other things that are just a complete loss. And I've never seen a good explanation as to what makes the difference. I don't know that we really know. So
yeah, and they seem to remember when they were younger, right? Like I know my father-in-law, thought that my husband was someone he worked with, decades ago. So we just kind of you just kind of go along with whatever
Yeah,
they're saying.
very
too.
common. What I love
Yes.
about this project is our past winners and even projects that have been submitted have been a little more on the artsy side. And this project is true photojournalism. And it's the first one that we've granted that is truly, this is like a newspaper photojournalistic story. And I love it for that. And I just think the lighting and how much she covered them, it shows that it wasn't over a weekend, that she really spent time with them and really worked the story. And it's just beautiful.
It is. I keep finding myself as I was looking at these pictures thinking I should go in with Gary and start taking pictures like this, but I just don't know that I have the skills to get the lighting right and the processing. But I mean, I just look at that, right? And that's just, that to me, that's just, that picture is just so human. And, I went to see my stepfather a couple of days ago. It was in the afternoon, but he'd been asleep. He heard my voice in the senior living, little 6-bed residential community. And as soon as I came around the corner to see him, he flings open the door and is obviously not very attractive 93-year-old body, just in boxers with briefs underneath. And I thought, man, if I could have just captured that.
This one, I mean, technically I wish I didn't like cut her foot off, and it just happened so fast. Joan said Alan's name and he hadn't heard his wife say his name in years. And then she kissed him on the cheek. And so that was just like this moment of, it was just these like moments that come out of it were so amazing. But it's, it's also really sad. Like the whole time I'm working on this project and going forward, it's sad. And it's hard for the character.
It's also beautiful. I feel like you've truly captured true love. And I think that's what drew me to this project, because that was my parents. They were married for almost 50 years, and my mom had it, and my dad was her caregiver. But they did have true love. And Leah really captures it in this project. And not so much the loneliness. It's like, I don't really see loneliness with her, because he is always by her side and advocating for her and supporting her. And I feel like that really shows in this project.
Yep, I absolutely agree. I'm going to move through the rest of them pretty quickly because I want to ask them more questions. That looks like it must have been a support group. And
that's the cafes.
Yeah.
That he was one of the legions. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, again, Diane, the thing you're talking about, the love and the togetherness, right? Just powerful thing. And again, more of the same.
I also feel like what Leah has done here, and it's something I feel strongly about, is people think of Alzheimer's as a death sentence, and eventually it could be. But she really shows that Joan is living with Alzheimer's, and Alan hasn't really disappeared from life. They live it together, and he continues his life with her. And he's probably had to change things with having a partner with dementia, but he's still contributing to society and living. And I just think that is so important. And I feel like you really captured that.
Well, what I love about this particular picture is that she almost looks like a young girl again, right? It's like it's magical. It's like you put it in AI and somehow took her back 50 years or something like that. I don't know. I just, she seems so alive there. So anyway, let me take those perfect. Off the stage. So as you did this whole thing, as you walked through this, were there any big surprises for you?
I think that lots of those big surprises, and I think it happens maybe with lots of illnesses or diseases, but people don't talk about what their goals of care are going to be. If I was diagnosed with dementia, does my family know what I want? I find that people just don't talk about it, especially, maybe at a younger age, or especially dementia, Alzheimer's. I feel like people just don't even want to think about it. And I think that causes issues for the caregiver and the family going forward, like a lot. It still surprises me that there's this big stigma about it. I just don't understand why there is such a stigma around it still in 2026.
So I was going to ask this question, maybe you've already answered it. As you've gone through this process, both with your family and with this particular photo essay, anything make you mad?
I mean, I think the stigma, I think that people don't want to talk about it. I mean, a lot of people also, and some families won't get you would know more about this, Gina, but I think you can get tested to find out what type of dementia.
Yes, there are obviously there are many different types.
Many. And I mean, Ellen taught me that one person with dementia, one person, because everyone's going through it differently. It could be different. It's totally different. But that if you don't do the tests, I know some, with my husband and stuff, they're so worried that they might get this disease because they're worried it's genetic. Yes, you can find out sometimes if it is going to be genetic or not. And I think because of that stigma and people not talking about it, maybe people don't get the care they need right away, especially if another person is dependent on that person.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my whole reasons for doing this was, like I said, to bring a visual awareness to a disease that has been living in the shadows. I mean, people talk about cancer so comfortably. I am a cancer survivor. I'm 4 years out. And I was very open with it, but I've also been very open with my mom's dementia. I wasn't with her, but that I want people to be able to talk about the way they talk about cancer. And that's something that I don't understand either, Leah. It's so frustrating. So I understand that.
Yeah, and it is really important. I've written quite a bit about it, and my journey with my stepfather, and I've gotten so much feedback about how helpful it has been and how people are understanding. These are people from the industry. I think for me, the most interesting part is, even though I'm, if you will, an expert, being a family caregiver, I've learned so very much. Leah, I would like to dig in a little bit more about some of the tricks he used to make life better. You talked about the card he would carry when he'd go to the store. What are some other things he did?
He had, I don't know if he still does, but he had a tracker on Joan, because when they would go to the store, you turn around. It's like when you have a little kid, you turn around and they're gone. And that happened to Joan once. I think they were at a Canadian Tire and this stuff. So now he had a tracker where he could, or she wanders outside or something like that. What else does he do? I mean, Joan wanders a lot in the house, right? Like down the hallways, she walks around, paces a lot. Ellen says that like he's been able to keep her at home for so long. He did just get care that came in to help, but he does, he just really lets Joan kind of decide wherever she wants to do, and he just follows her. So he did get it's like I guess a brace. So when she goes down a step, he could put that around her so she doesn't fall. I mean, she's had some slips and stuff. So he does stuff like that. He bought her I don't know how to call it, but it's like not a wheelchair. It's like basically a stroller for adults with heavy duty. So he can get her outside now. And so he could get his exercise. So, but right, Joan's slower, obviously. So then she gets the fresh air and they're outside. So he's done that. He takes her to the park. He's just like Gina said, like living with dementia, and
Yes.
Alan is through it. But Alan now, as you know, Steve, being a caregiver, he does have time for himself now with home care coming.
Yeah. Well, I have so much admiration because it sounds like he has really embraced the job. And I think for me, one of the things that, and Diane, I'd be curious if you experienced this. Actually, both of you have experienced this. There's this horrible paradox. I brought my stepfather home from the senior living community at Thanksgiving, and it turned out to be a terrible mistake. Because when I took him, put him back in the car and drove him back into the community, he was convinced I was driving him to a motel or a shelter or something and abandoning him. We were about halfway back, and he turned and he looked at me, and he was already really upset about it. And he looked at me and he said, I feel like this is the end of our relationship. And I was just crushed. I'm still crushed by it. But you know what? The next morning when I went back to see him, he had no memory of any of it, right? He didn't even remember being at the house for for Thanksgiving. And so how does Alan, I'd be really curious how he sort of deals with these sometimes profound things that just haunt you.
Yeah, Alan has a interesting outlook on it, a really good outlook. He is really positive. Now, not saying that it hasn't been difficult. Obviously, this is his wife, but Alan just basically says, this is what's happening, that I have no, like, this is what I have to do. Like, there's no option kind of thing.
I love that.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that and stuff. And, you know, even with my father-in-law, when he would say stuff to my husband or something, and you're right, the next day he didn't remember. I think it's sometimes harder on the caregiver because we remember, but they're not going to remember. So, but Alan does stuff to keep himself busy too. I think I've photographed some couples where that isn't the case, and you know, they get very depressed, the caregiver.
I just want to say, Steve, I know the last time we talked, you called me Diane a few times as well, but I don't even correct you because I find it such a compliment that you call me my mother's name.
Yeah.
So that is why I'm not like stopping and correcting you, because it really is. I look just like her, and when you call me that, it makes me smile. So.
Well, I'm gonna chalk it up to my pneumonia, but it might be something else.
Totally
so anyway,
fine.
So we're just about out of time here. I guess one of the questions I would have for both of you is sort of looking at your senior living is a business, right? And people get into it because they care, and they tend to get not see people with dementia until they're fairly late stage because most people want to stay at home. If you were just sort of based on your experiences talking to senior living operators about your perspective on dementia, being a family member, having a family member with it, what lessons do they need to learn?
Oh, I can say is that you're now living in their world, and you need to learn how to change how you communicate. The person living with dementia cannot change that. You now have to learn how to communicate with your loved one, and not correcting them or arguing with them. You have to learn to truly understand the disease and that it is a disease. And if they could change it, they would. So I always tell people that you're now living in their world. Do not try to rationalize what they're saying or explain what you're trying to say. It's different now.
It is different. I've actually got an article that I've started that is titled, I'm so tired of lying.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, both of you get this big smile on your face, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. But nobody really talks about it. It's actually very wearying that you have to make up this other reality. So I've got about 15 seconds late. Gina, let's talk about where people can find the fund and
Leah's
I
work.
assume all 10 years are there now.
Yep, 10 years of grants up there. It's the Bob and Diane Fund.org. Leah's work is up there. Please look at it. It is so beautiful. I am so proud that Leah and her work will be the face of the Bob and Diane Fund for this next year. It's important work, and I'm just honored that she applied and that we chose her. I'm just very excited about it.
And Leah, thank you so much. Powerful photographs for me, for so many other people. And I would encourage you to check out her photographs on her website and on Instagram. So many beautiful images. Makes me want to take another trip to Calgary to re-explore some of those places from my youth. And again, Gina, just thank you for your passion to make the world a little bit, both of you to make the world a little bit better place.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.